if a equals 3x squared plus 5x minus 6, and b equals negative 2x squared minus 6x plus 7, then a minus b equals which of these four answer choices? Okay, so we are looking for what a minus b equals. That's what we're looking to find. And so, well, let's go ahead and write that. So a minus b. Now, in order to figure out what this expression equals, we have to know what a is and what b is. So we can plug them in and or we can substitute and figure out our answer. Well, fortunately, they tell us those things. In the problem, they say, they tell us that a is equal to 3x squared plus 5x minus 6. And they also tell us that b is equal to negative 2x squared minus 6x plus 7. And so we're just going to substitute these guys right in. We're going to take the values of a and b and just substitute them in here. So for a, we have 3x squared plus 5x minus 6. And whenever you substitute, it's always a good habit to use parentheses. And then we have our minus in between. And then we have what b is equal to. And that's equal to negative 2x squared minus 6x plus 7. Again, I use parentheses as a good habit. And now we just need to simplify. I'm going to put an equal sign in front because we're showing that this expression is equal to this expression. And we're going to keep driving down. We're going to simplify this even further. Well, the first thing I see is parentheses, and we always like to get rid of parentheses or take care of parentheses first. And in order to do that, to get rid of parentheses, we can distribute whatever's on the outside of the parentheses. Well, if I look over here, I don't see anything. There's really just a 1 here. So if you're distributing a 1, 1 times 3x squared, 1 times 5x, and 1 times negative 6, you just get 3x squared plus 5x minus 6. When there's nothing out front except the 1, you can essentially what we call drop the parentheses. We're actually just multiplying through by 1. But now here in front we have this minus. So remember whenever you're subtracting some sort of quantity that has more than one term in it, you have to remember that we essentially have like a negative 1 out here. And when you distribute a negative 1 into each of the things, when you multiply through by negative 1, that's going to change what's inside. So in effect, we essentially have like a negative 1 here, and the negative 1 comes in here and multiplies times negative 2x squared. Negative times a negative is a positive 2x squared. So we are changing the sign on the 2x squared. And we also distribute the negative 1 to the negative 6x, which is negative times negative is positive 6x. And then we have negative 1 times a positive 7. When we distribute that, we have a negative times a positive is a negative. So negative 7 or a minus 7. So we didn't change anything in this trinomial here because we had a positive 1 up front. But we did have to switch the signs on this polynomial to a positive, from a negative to a positive, from a negative to a positive, and from a positive to a negative because we had a negative in front or a subtraction. And so at this point, now that our parentheses have been eliminated, we can simplify further by combining like terms. And so we need to just group these. We have to look through and see, well, which terms are like. And in order to determine that, we're matching the bases, which are like the x values, and the exponents, like the squareds and the x to the firsts. So this guy, 3x squared, if I look through, I'm looking for other x squareds. So I did 5x minus 6, a plus 2x squared. Okay. So I'm going to clump this guy together. I'm going to keep it with the sign so I remember that I'm adding. And then I look through, I don't see any other x squareds. So we have a 3x squared plus a 2x squared. And that gives us a 5x squared. And then we go through and I see other terms that might be like, well, I see a positive 5x and a minus 6 and then a positive 6x. Those are like terms because the x's have the same base and the x to the first, the exponents were the same. And when I combine a positive 5 and a positive 6, I get positive 11 or plus 11x. And then lastly, we have these other terms, negative 6 or a minus 6 and a negative 7 or a minus 7. When we put those together, negative 6 and a negative 7 or negative 6 minus 7, we get a negative 13 or a minus 13. And if I look here, these terms are all none of these are like terms, so we have finished our substitution. So we now can say that the expression a minus b is equal to 5x squared plus 11x minus 13. And that is, if we look here, answer choice number 2.